played his entire 18-year career with the Steelers. So how will you remember Ben Roethlisberger?
Well, Skip, on the field, he's a borderline top 10. I don't know if I would necessarily put him in the top 10, but he has won 2 Super Bowls, threw the game-winning touchdown in his last Super Bowl win, 5th in passing yards, 64,000, 8th in passing touchdowns, 418. 11 seasons with at least 10 wins, Skip. Never had a losing season. 165 wins. He has more wins. He has double the amount of wins as losses. And only 6 quarterbacks that started 100 games have a better record. Brady, Staubach, Montana, Manning, Rodgers, and Bradshaw. And he put his body on the line. He took a lot of punishment. He's the most sacked quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, in NFL history. And that's what he was known for, because it wasn't just good enough to get there. You had to get him down, because if you didn't get him onto the ground and you was around his waist or you just had one arm, he was going to throw the ball. He was going to make a play. So he put his body, he stood on that hill for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But there's a part of him that's off the field that I think people are going to judge him by also.
Yep.
And the Hall of Fame voters are going to look very, very hard. I think Ben Roethlisberger, for what he did on the field, deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I do too.
But it's very complex when you look at his on the field and off the field. And now that they say voters can take off the field into the equation, because before the TO situation, Skip, nothing could be brought in except field of play. Nothing that someone did off the field, because we know there's a lot of guys that had some stuff off the field that did not weigh into them going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So it's a very complex situation. But on the field, Skip, he was special. He was special. There's no way around that.
I'll start with the off the field. Must be taken into account. I know in my many years at ESPN, I can't tell you how many of the black commentators came to me to raise the issue of, are we giving him a pass that he doesn't deserve for these incidents? And I don't want to go into the gory details, but we all know what they were.
Right.
Yeah, we're giving him a pass that he does not deserve. He did get suspended.
Right. 6 games later, reduced to 4.
Yep. So let's frame it with that. But then, as he retires, let's go back onto the field. So how will I then remember him just as a football fan or fanatic? He was simply the country's strongest quarterback I ever watched. Right. Because in his heyday, he would shrug off the biggest, baddest pass rushers like they were little kids. Just shrug them off. I don't know how he did it. Just shrug them off and just stand tall on that mountain, like you said. And yet he was a big man with a pretty average arm. And the other thing was, he was actually Brett Favre in a very different package, because you want to talk about gambling? He would try anything at any point. And he twice led this league in interceptions. So it was sort of Eli-esque. But I never thought of Eli as a gambler. Ben was just a flat out, I'll try that. I'll try that. I'll try that. And his receivers loved it. Antonio loved it for much of the time. But then sometimes he wouldn't get the targets that and then he flipped out and melted down. So, to your point, you win 2 Super Bowls out of 3. That's pretty great. You make 6 Pro Bowls. That's pretty great. These are Hall of Fame type credentials, and yet when I think of him, I even flash back if you just throw the name Ben Roethlisberger at me, I flash back to the motorcycle crash, and I just can't make peace with it, because you had it all, man. And
that might have took a year off his career.
I've always said that it took at least 1, because he's riding, I think he's going to the facility, as I recall, on his way to the facility on a motorcycle with no helmet. And winds up going over the hood of a car.
Through the windshield.
I don't know if he went through it.
He didn't through it, but he hit the
windshield with no helmet on. And he was a wreck, man, because it took a while to come back from that.
I just heard an article, Skip, just read it this morning, that Mike Singletary said the 49ers had a deal in place to trade. They had it. Trent Baalke and Jed York had signed off on it. And he said no, because that was when the allegation had first appeared.
Okay.
So obviously the Steelers thought it was very serious, because they was willing to move on from a guy that potentially had already won a Super Bowl and was on the cusp of becoming a great quarterback. So they took this very serious. Obviously, we know they stuck with him. But Skip, like I said, on the field, Skip, his body of work is impeccable.
And to his credit, off the field, and again, I'm not close to the situation, but he did get married. He did have kids, and it seemed like he became a pretty good husband and a pretty good dad, because it seemed like that became his priority.
Yes.
And he probably lasted about as long as he could last, because he's sort of the flip side of Brady. I don't think he was ever the biggest workout warrior.
No.
Right?
No. I thought, Skip, he stayed a year too long. I told you, I said, Skip, I'm seeing decline. I said, Skip, if you look at him closely, Skip, it just got harder and harder for him to push the ball down the field.
I think his shoulder got so beat up that he lost whatever arm strength he did have, which was not high to begin with.
Yeah, Skip, it's like if Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux didn't have anything to lose on his fastball, Skip. If he goes from 85 to 65, well, I mean, and so that's what Ben, like you said, for a man his size, he's as big as Josh Allen.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
But his arm is not even close to Allen's.
Not even, it's half of Josh Allen's.
Yes. So you would think somebody that size 6'5", 250, you're like, oh man, this joker throw the ball 80 yards, throw it through a hurricane.
But would he compete?
Oh, he absolutely would compete.
Ooh.
Oh, he would die. Like you said, you know what, Skip? He was a bigger Brett Favre because he would dive. He would do anything for the win. He would take risks, sometimes unnecessarily. He definitely put his body on the line like a Brett Favre did. But Skip, you look at those numbers, and I mean, how do we? Phillip Rivers, Eli. I mean, Ben has the two. Eli has the two with the MVPs. Phillip Rivers had I mean, that was a great QB class, Skip.
Yep. And to the bitter end, just on feel for the game, because he had a great feel for playing the position.
Right.
They made the playoffs this year. So you got to give him one last hurrah.
Yes.
They got there.
If I'm being Skip, I'm not announcing my retirement. I'm not going into the hall with Brady. If anybody, I ain't even thinking about it. Who want to go in there with that? With him?
Guess he didn't have a choice.
Now I'm saying, you know what? I'm going to make my official announcement in 2023.
I know, but Father Time was knocking on that door hard.
I ain't got to announce no retirement. I'm just not playing. And then I'll officially announce it next year.
Just so you can have the stage to yourself?
Not no stage myself. You still get the stage with Brady.
That's what I mean. I got it.
You got to put Brady in by himself. Brady got to be a standalone. Might be the first time nobody else, only one player goes into the hall.
That would work. I would agree. Well, in the end, I would like to congratulate Ben.
Oh, yeah, he had a phenomenal
great
career.
on-the-field career.
I mean, 18 years with one organization.
Yep.
There are not very many players, I don't know, maybe, I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but 18 years in one organization, kind of like, even Brady had, 21, but he moved on. Peyton had, 12, 13, he had to move on. I mean, I like when guys can stay at one organization, but that's just not the way it is in football, Skip. It's not the way it is in sports anymore. So
I hear you.
But he had an unbelievable career. Congratulations, Ben.
Absolutely, congrats, and hope he enjoys this next stage of life as dad. And I thought the video was telling with all of his kids and wife, and boy, end of an era for Pittsburgh fans.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.